Welcome back to Kleppers Corner, Today in History. Today we're looking at March 14th, a date that somehow manages to contain Roman chariot races, the invention of a machine that accidentally supercharged slavery, the collapse of a European nation that helped ignite World War II, and the birth of a guy whose hair looked like he stuck his finger in a cosmic electrical socket. In other words, March 14th is history's version of a very chaotic group chat. Segment 1. Rituals, empires, and the eve of betrayal. March 14th in ancient Rome wasn't just another Tuesday. It was the day of the Equirria Marcia, a festival honoring Mars, the Roman god of war. Romans celebrated with chariot races on the Campus Martius, which was basically the ancient version of NASCAR, except instead of sponsorship logos, the drivers had gods and fate deciding whether they lived. The races weren't just entertainment. They were meant to purify the Roman army before the spring campaigning season, because nothing says spiritual readiness like whipping horses around a dirt track while thousands of Romans scream encouragement and possibly gamble away their grain reserves. The same day also hosted a ritual called Mockery, where priests symbolically beat animal skins to drive away winter. Think of it as ancient Rome's version of yelling at the weather on Twitter. And here's the kicker. March 14th is the day before the Ides of March, which means somewhere in Rome on this day in 44 BC, Julius Caesar was probably walking around feeling pretty good about life. Maybe thinking about reforms, maybe enjoying some wine, completely unaware that his co-workers had scheduled a very aggressive performance review for the next morning. Segment 2. Thrones, crowns, and medieval family drama. Jump forward to the medieval period, and March 14th becomes a day of extremely intense family disputes. In 1074, the Battle of Mogurud erupted in Hungary, when cousins fought each other for the throne. Dukes Geza and Ladislaus defeated King Solomon in a classic medieval political strategy known as the family reunion, but with swords. This wasn't just personal drama. The outcome stabilized Hungary's monarchy, which later became a major defensive line against the Ottoman Empire. So, technically, a brutal cousin fight helped shape European geopolitics for centuries. Then, in 1489, we see another fascinating transfer of power, when Queen Catherine Cornaro sold the entire Kingdom of Cyprus to the Republic of Venice. Yes, sold. Imagine running a kingdom and deciding the best move is basically putting it on medieval Craigslist. Slightly used Mediterranean island, great shipping lanes, minor Ottoman invasion risk. Venice wasn't just collecting vacation property. Cyprus gave them control over critical trade routes to the east. In other words, it was the Amazon warehouse of the Renaissance spice trade. Segment 3. Science, empires, and a machine with terrible consequences. The early modern era brings us one of history's most important scientific publications. In 1663, Otto von Guericke published his groundbreaking work on vacuums and electrostatics. His experiments shattered the old belief that nature literally refused to allow empty space. Turns out, nature was fine with it. Aristotle just didn't have a strong enough pump. These discoveries helped accelerate the scientific revolution, which slowly replaced medieval philosophy with something radical called evidence. But March 14th also gave the world a much darker turning point. In 1794, Eli Whitney received the patent for the cotton gin. The machine made separating cotton fibers from seeds dramatically faster. On the surface, this sounds like agricultural progress. In reality, it triggered an explosion in cotton production across the American South. And because planting and harvesting cotton still required huge amounts of manual labor, the demand for enslaved people skyrocketed. A device designed to increase efficiency ended up strengthening one of the most brutal systems of human exploitation in history. So congratulations, March 14th. You invented both vacuum physics and a machine that helped push the United States toward the Civil War. Talk about range. Segment 4. War, appeasement, and the collapse of nations. By the 20th century, March 14th starts showing up in the lead-up to some of the darkest chapters of modern history. In 1939, Nazi Germany engineered the breakup of Czechoslovakia. Slovakia declared independence under heavy pressure from Adolf Hitler, becoming a German puppet state. This moment completely shattered the illusion that appeasement would stop Nazi expansion. Just months earlier, European leaders had convinced themselves that handing Hitler territory would bring peace. Instead, it simply convinced him the rest of Europe had the spine of a soggy noodle. The collapse of Czechoslovakia made it clear that war was now unavoidable. Just a few years later, in 1943, the liquidation of the Krakow ghetto was completed as Nazi forces deported thousands of Jewish residents to extermination camps. And in 1945, the British deployed the massive Grand Slam bomb for the first time, a 22,000-pound weapon designed to collapse reinforced structures and underground bunkers. By that point, World War II had fully become industrialized destruction, factories producing weapons capable of reshaping the earth itself. Segment 5, Protest, Power, and the Modern World. March 14th in the modern era shows how history continues to swing between democratic movements and authoritarian consolidation. In 2005, more than 1 million people gathered in Beirut during the Cedar Revolution. Protesters demanded the end of Syria's decades-long occupation of Lebanon. The demonstrations were enormous, peaceful, and incredibly diverse. Christians, Sunni Muslims, Druze, and others united in one political movement. And for a moment, it worked. Syrian forces withdrew from Lebanon later that year. But March 14th also marks moments when power moved in the opposite direction. In 2004, Vladimir Putin was re-elected president of Russia and began consolidating authority over the political system. In 2013, Xi Jinping formally assumed the presidency of China, marking the beginning of one of the most centralized periods of Chinese leadership in decades. So on the same date, you can see people filling streets demanding democracy and leaders tightening their grip on power. History, like politics, is rarely consistent. Segment 6, Einstein, Hawking, and the Day of Pi. Finally, we arrive at one of history's most poetic coincidences. March 14th is the birthday of Albert Einstein. Born in 1879, Einstein reshaped our understanding of the universe with relativity, proving that space and time are part of a single cosmic framework, and that energy and matter are interchangeable. You might know the equation, E equals mc squared, which is either the most elegant formula in physics or the only equation most people remember from high school. In an extraordinary twist of cosmic timing, another revolutionary physicist, Stephen Hawking, died on March 14th in 2018. Hawking spent his career exploring black holes and the deepest mysteries of the universe, showing that even the darkest objects in space slowly radiate energy and evaporate. So the birthday of the man who explained gravity and the death of the man who explained black holes share the same date. Also, March 14th is Pi Day. Yes, the mathematical constant, 3.14, which means the universe gave us a holiday where mathematicians celebrate circles by eating pie. And honestly, that might be the most rational thing humans have ever done. In conclusion, March 14th reveals history's strange balance. It's a day of rituals and revolutions, scientific breakthroughs and political collapses, terrifying wars and astonishing discoveries. From Roman chariot races to cosmic physics, this single date captures humanity's endless attempt to understand the world, and occasionally to set it on fire.